Okay, that was very interesting. I think there's a lot of change going on, and that'll be part of the theme of my presentation as well. Change is inevitable, and some of the changes that were talked about, there's buildings, jobs that weren't here 20 years ago, or weren't even talked about, happening now today. So it's important to get a handle on that change. So just to give you a background on myself, I'm an associate at Tallon Walker Architects. I'm responsible for building information modelling, and I'm a graduate of Trinity College as well. So it's interesting to work on a campus that you actually attended, and it's nice to sort of give back a little bit as well. Okay, just to give you some examples of the type of projects we're doing. We're working in the UK, Northern Ireland, and in Ireland. We've done some work in Saudi as well. But a lot of BIM projects, the UK is driving it. So we're doing projects like the University College London Hospitals. That's a very interesting project. Proton beam therapy, that's level 2 BIM. Very good client on that. They're driving us to do BIM by the book, and which is really interesting. We're working on university work in the UK, and also some labs, and we're doing some office buildings as well. In Northern Ireland, we're doing Queen's University Belfast, School of Biological Sciences. That's level 2 BIM as well. We're also doing community centres in Uri and Lisburn, so these are healthcare centres. And we're also working on the university, Ulster University, which is a new central campus in Belfast. So there's a lot going on, and in each of these cases, the clients who are asked us to do it in BIM are in level 2 BIM. Okay, so in Ireland, BIM is not mandated, but there are a number of clients looking for BIM also. And Trinity did procure the project in level 2 BIM, so that was really exciting. That was in 2013. So that was the same year that the PAS 1192 document came out. So I think everyone was kind of feeling their way through that one. But as time went on, the documentation got better and better. We're also doing work in Cork, and also we did the Arthur Cox headquarters, which was interior fit out in BIM. So it's across a range of projects, and it's from sort of mostly big projects, big complex projects that we're working on. Okay, so get into the business school itself. I have a picture of the site of it, but basically it's down on Pier Street. It's where we had done a building back in the 1970s, the old sports hall building. It's replacing that. So it's quite a larger building, and it's a very strategic building for Trinity, because it's seen as for them as being a way for students sort of round out their education. To come out with an MBA or a Master's in business is seen as being of huge value. Okay. So the site is basically down at you'll probably be familiar with the actual sports building. Down in the corner there's a climbing sort of section, and it's just down from that, and it's just beyond the railway line. So it's quite a tight site. Anyway, Trinity, just make a note as well, the Greg Power, who is our client, was intending to come here this morning, but he won't be able to attend, so I'm going to cover a couple of his slides on this. So Trinity is quite an old institution, so it's 1592, so it doesn't get much older than that in Ireland. So they have 3 million basically square feet of buildings, 51 acres over 8 sites. So although we're familiar with the sort of main site, they have a number of sites close by, and then they have residential sites as well in various areas. So the 3 main faculty, 17,000 students and 2,500 staff. And they're 88th in the world rankings, so they're very proud to be in that top 100, and they're the only one in the top 100. So other stats is they're 25th in nursing, 28th in classics and English, and 57th for arts and humanities. So a very prestigious university. Okay, so the design team on this project are the architects is Scott Tallon Walker ourselves, structural engineer and civil engineering is ARP, facade engineering is also ARP, and Mech and Elec is IN2. There's a range of other designers providing information. It's less so in BIM, it's plugging into the BIM model. On the construction team then, the enabling works is BAM, the main contractor is J.J. Radigan and Company, and mechanical services contractor is Team Burke, and the electrical is contractor is Designer Group. So that's the team. All these people, all these organisations need to share information to get the job done. Okay. So as I said, the Trinity Business School is a strategic part of the future for Trinity College. It provides graduates with the ability to manage change consciously, carefully with insight and discipline. And that's what we've got to do with BIM. There's change. We can't do anything about that. The change is there. We've got to manage it. And that's not easy. So just to give you an insight into the building, there's 5 main sections in it. There's the School of Business itself. There's an innovation and entrepreneurship hub, an auditorium, restaurants. And then on Pier Street itself, there's some protected structures that are being refurbished. So the building itself, the site area is 5,200 square metres. The gross internal area is over 14,000 square metres. So basically it's the area of the floor plates are 3 times the size of the site. So quite an urban site. So the contract delivery type is the Irish Government Public Works contract, and it's in BIM Level 2 in accordance with PAS 1192 Part 2, 2013. And it's sustainability, then it's NZ and BER A2 rating. Okay. So the key thing there is we've been asked to do this in Level 2 BIM. The design team have been asked to undertake the work in accordance with the PAS 1192 standard. Okay, that's really important, and as Barry mentioned earlier, standards are really important. It's much easier for us as designers to actually work to a standard than to something bespoke. The UK standards are very good, they're well documented, they're well written, everyone can download them, everyone can follow them, and there's a certain amount of familiarisation now with it. If you do something that's not to standard, the difficulty is everyone's got to read the minutiae, all the detail of how this bespoke standard works. Okay, so the programme is up there. So basically it's planned to complete it by the end of 2018. We really started at the beginning of 2015. So we had a concept design, we got some surveys done, we developed the design, we got planning for our safety cert, DAC, we did some technical design, we had procurement and a lot of construction. So you can see basically there's not a lot of technical design there, a lot of developed design, a bit of concept design. And construction is the major part. This is one diagram I really want to sort of, explain, some of the issues we're having. Because the issues aren't BIM. BIM is, I think, part of the solution rather than part of the problem. There's a big problem in our business, and what we're trying to do is manage change. Change is very difficult. So what I've done is the sort of blue dotted line there is the amount of uncertainty in the project. It's a huge amount of uncertainty in the beginning. Basically, very beginning, you don't have a building. It isn't there, and you're trying to get a building. So you'll only remove complete uncertainty at the very end, and that's when you have the building, what you want. So the uncertainty steps as you get to the end of each stage, because basically what happens is you have something, you can evaluate it, you can say, look, we'll go to the next stage. And you remove some uncertainty. You're moving forward all the time. What's happening then is the amount of change then is ramping up very quickly at the very beginning, because you're coming up with a concept, you might change, look at 10 options, keep cutting it down, keep cutting it down. And basically that change is going on all the time. For our fees, ideally, this is not exactly what we get, but this is the ideal situation we want. We want to basically put a team in place, ramp it up, keep it consistent as long as we can, and then drop it off when the project completes. That's the ideal sort of world that we want to do. So, what happens in reality? In reality, this is what's going on at the moment in traditional design process. We're basically very cautious in the beginning, doing a certain amount of design. Most of the design ends up at the technical design stage, and we're still doing an awful lot of change. And that's what's killing us at the moment. It's killing us because the information is changing very late in the day, and the cost is very hard to determine as well as you go on. So basically we should be trying to complete design at the end of the develop design stage. And these are the RIBA stages as well. So, and they're really good because we work in the UK and in Ireland, so it's actually really useful to be able to kind of keep a standard stage system that we can all understand. So for us, a lot of work is happening at that sort of technical design stage. But the problem is there's a lot of change happening, and that's a big problem. What we really want to do, if we're to do it right, if it was possible to do it right, is to get all that design complete at the end of the developed design stage. I mean, really complete. I mean, the technical aspects of it as well. Not so much the production information, but the technical design completed into that stage. And then we start cutting down. Now, the problem with that is we've an awful lot of risk here at this point, because basically we're doing an awful lot of work, more than our fees. If that project stops at that point, most of us are in bother. There'll be questions asked. But you can see the change graph has changed. Basically what's happened is we need to get all the change completed by the end of that point. We need to be flattening out, no more change after that. And that's not easy to do that. Okay, so that's a comparison between the two, and I've highlighted there the risky area in doing that. And what will happen is if you don't manage it, and actually you could end up in a much worse situation. So ultimately, if we need to do more design earlier, we're going to have to figure out ways to do that. And BIM is part of doing that. But we've got to collaborate. We've got to basically be on the same page, exchange information that's actually we all understand, and manage the change process. So, did a few sort of lessons learned, basically from my experience on a number of projects. So ultimately, the client brief needs to be more prescriptive about design information. And that's there's an EIR document, and I'll refer you to one that's on the RIAI site. There's a document, a guidance document there, and you can use that. That's really important. We need to understand straight off what everyone is doing, and everyone needs to be on the same page. Contract documents need to include requirements for BIM. If it doesn't, then everyone's definitely not on the same page. People are going to start pulling out. Information managers are required to ensure that BIM documentation in place is adhered to. So you need a document that everyone can pick up and say, yeah, this is how we're doing the project. All participants need to understand the supply chain requirements of design information. So I need to know what I'm getting from you, and I need to know what I need to produce for someone else to let them do their job. And only when we all know that do things move smoothly. So all participants, designers need to exchange better quality information. I think that's one thing we all need to do. The quality of the information we're producing needs to be better. It needs to be suitable for others to use. Designers need to exchange design information earlier. And that's going back to my diagram. It needs to happen earlier. If it doesn't happen earlier, you're not going to get the bill of quantities. You might get it done, but it mightn't be very good. It won't relate to the design information that's being required. So design exchanges need to be more frequent. Clash detection needs to come in sooner. That isn't happening soon enough at the moment. And it's all done in a rush at the end. That's a big problem. The majority of design changes need to be completed before the technical design commences. Otherwise, the risk of cost and program overruns. And that's happening on most projects at the moment. So all design information then should be derived from the models. So there must be confidence in the quality of the information in the models. If there's two versions of the truth, and it's back to Barry's thing again, there's two versions of the truth, then you start to mistrust the information that you're presented. Okay. So this is a document I use for the workflow. So basically it starts off with the employer. They produce the employer's information requirements. They can assess the capability of the supply team as well. And this is at the bid stage. So they go out initially with their bid saying, this is what we want. Each of the bidders produce a pre-contract BIM execution plan. That's basically just a methodology statement saying how you're going to basically give the employer what they want for the price that you're putting in. When you come to contract stage, then there's a BIM protocol, which is an addendum to the contract, which basically signs everyone up basically to doing a minimum amount of information on BIM on the project. And then when you get into doing the project, then this BIM execution plan is basically there's technical information added to how you technically do the job. And then the ultimate deliverable then is Revit models, and if you're in the UK, you need to deliver COBE as well, which is asset information. And the standards to back up all that. The BIM Level 2 standards are all free. You can go onto a site that's up there as well, bimlevel2.org. They're all there free to download. So there's documents for collaboration, which is BS 1192. There's one for CapEx, which is capital expenditure. One for operations. There's one for COBE, which is the asset information. There's one for security, and now there's a recent one for health and safety. So they're available to everyone. Also, there's other really important documents are ones produced by the Construction Industry Council in the UK. Information Manager, scope of their role. There's one in insurance, which is really important. And there's a recent update, it's actually only came in yesterday, to the BIM protocol. And it's actually, from what I've read of it so far, it's actually really good changes. Fixes basically things that have been a problem in the previous version, but which they probably couldn't have considered beforehand. Okay, so also what we've done is I'm on the subcommittee in the RIAI looking after BIM, and we've produced a guidance document on how to prepare an employer's information requirements document. And that document is available if you want to the RIAI site, and you go into working with an architect, and you go into BIM, the document is there. Two documents, one's a template and the other one's a guidance. So basically the template is just, it's got the headings, which are the prescribed headings that you require under PAS 1192, and the guidance document has guidance for each one of those. Okay, so they're available. There's two other documents on the site. The other two are, you have to be a member to actually get them. One is on a pre-contract BIM execution plan, the other is post-contract, both guidance and forms as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just before I bring up, I call up Liam, who's also with Scott Walker, and he's going to get into the detail of the project, which you're probably most interested in, and then Adrian and Celine. I just want to bring up a couple of slides just from Greg, because he can't be here, but I think it would have been useful if he was here, because I think it's great to see the client's perspective, because we have to listen to the client. So just going to bring that up first, just to... This isn't the best picture now to bring up immediately. Anyway, there were previous slides, so you were slowly introduced to this one, I think. Okay. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, so I'm going to have a little bit of interpretation of what he might have said about this. So this is what clients want, basically. A short list of modest client expectations from BIM. Okay, straight from the BIM zealots. So clients are basically listening to designers, they're listening to specialists on BIM. They're being told, you know, it's going to do all these great things for them. And then there's a kind of it doesn't really happen. And it's not that it can't happen, it's factors basically come into play. And we've got to get rid of those bloody factors that come into play, because they're causing what we expect with all this technology not to happen. Okay. So it's basically saying they want to reduce cost in design and consultants' fees. So they want to take down their fees and still get brilliant buildings. They want to eliminate reworking. So there's a perception there's a lot of reworking. Increase team collaboration. We all want to do that. Actually, team collaboration, we kind of know it's good, but if fees are tight, or programs tight, or things go wrong, people tend to retrench a bit, and that needs to be improved. I think there has to be, the de facto thing has to be more collaboration. Faster tendering, supply chain engagement, reduce discrepancies between contract documents, that's really important. Reduce capacity for contractor claims. So last few years since the crash, basically a lot of contractors would have gone in on or under budget and then basically recouped their costs through claims, and that has nearly become the norm, especially with PwC contracts. And that needs to improve, because it's not a great situation, because it's you think you're getting a building for one price and then it's another price, and it was always the other price, or always somewhere between the two. Fancy 3D model for fundraising and the like, it gives you that. reduce issues with safety files, O&M manuals, etc. That's down to the data. We've got to make sure the quality of the models are good enough to actually have that information and practical tool for our operational staff and allow changes to the building in the future. So these are things the client wants. So taking the plunge, so basically this is advice for clients. So access benefits versus costs carefully for BIM. Don't underestimate the work required to make BIM useful. So that's the one thing, is the client has to be involved in BIM. They can't stand off, ask for BIM, and then somehow the supply chain provides BIM. Get your information requirements ready. So that's your employer's information requirements. That's up on the RI AI site. That's free. Insert EIR and other requirements into the consultant's tenders. It has to be tendered. If you want BIM, you have to tender first, not ask for it afterwards. Appoint a person in-house to be a digital asset star. Manage your expectations. Ensure your consultants are competent, and instill a practice in your team that BIM works for us and not us working for BIM. You will be working for BIM if you employ two ways of doing your design information. So if you're actually keen to do everything by paper or digital PDF, along with having a model and both of the truth, you'll be working for BIM. It's important to make sure that if you're doing level 2 BIM, the model is the truth and everything else is an extract from that. Okay. So how am I doing on time? One last one. Okay. So topical issues and challenges for BIM leaders, and Adrian and Liam and Celine will talk a little bit about a few of these things. Surveys, using 2D and 3D, getting the LOD right, accuracy is very important. So we did do a point cloud survey on this, and we got the thing modelled, and it appears to have worked really well, given good information. So educating employers, focus on benefits. So employers are getting educated at the moment. I would say Trinity have been educated by working on the project. And there's a lot of, you learn a lesson, you say, I won't do that, I'll do it differently the next time, and hopefully they won't be too big. But that's what's going on at the moment. They're kind of learning on the job. And I'm sure Greg and Tom in Trinity will benefit significantly from having done this project and take that then into our next project. So tender documentation coordination, reduction in errors, supply chain tools. So what they're saying there, let's see what so basically errors are one of the big issues. Errors in information. The errors could be in the information itself, and the worst case scenario, there's an error on site. They're really expensive. You want to get rid of those. BIM is actually really good at doing that, but only if everyone actually produces the right information at the right time, and that's really important. So you need to create a contractual environment, consultant supply chain, and that's through the BIM protocol. That's the document you append to your contract. That it's a simple document that it's mostly about the intellectual property right of the model and who owns it and so on, but it says how you're going to run the project. You're going to run it to these standards, you're going to have an information manager, and that's who it is, and so on. So it just sets out the basic requirements, and that is really important. So be careful creating a BIM world. It is just a means to an end. So I would agree with that. You don't want to create a BIM world. You're still trying to do a good building, but it's got to assist in getting a good building done. How do you make BIM useful in operation? I think we're all trying to figure that one out. We kind of know what has to be done, but we haven't seen it in operation. So real operational staff issues. So Trinity, it is their strategy to use BIM, but they need to figure out when they get this wonderful BIM model and all this data, how do they use it, who's going to use it, how is it going to fit into their existing systems. So there's a legacy as well in keeping the model updated. So they're concerned about what do they do, how do they keep this model updated. If they change some aspect of the building, do they need someone to update the model? So these are just questions he's raising. Okay, so I hope that is of interest. So the remaining speakers, I'll just introduce them. Okay, so we're going to have Liam Farley from Tallon Walker next, and he's going to go into the detail on the building itself. Adrian Ryan will talk about the structural aspects of the building, and Celine then will talk about the construction of the building. So hopefully it'll give you a good overview of BIM in real case. Okay, all right, thank you very much.